I had to finish between 50 and 55 books ahead of going to New York, because that would be the next time that I would go shopping for books. I was going to place myself on a book buying ban until the TBR challenge was done. I should put that number into context, because not only is 50 to 55 books an enormous amount to get through, I had to somehow get that done in 2 months. I usually, on a really good year, read 100 to 120 books a year because I listen to a lot on audiobook. Why did I think I would pass that TBR challenge without putting myself through immense, unnecessary stress? So yes, I failed the challenge. Did I still go book shopping? Yes. Before anybody goes, well, what was the point in doing the challenge if you knew you were going to fail and you were still going to go book shopping in New York regardless? I actually genuinely thought I would be able to do it. I thought I could push myself to do it. I listen to audiobooks on 2 times speed. I have been reading a lot on my Kindle, so I've been speeding through it. I've not been that social at the moment. I thought I would do it. And then I don't even think that I did the maths in the sense of like, I put myself on the TBR challenge because I looked at my TBR pile, thought actually it's not that big, I'll be able to do it, without actually counting and then going, you listen to 1 audiobook a week, read 1 book every 2 weeks. 55 to 50 is never gonna happen. But I am still really glad that I did the challenge, because it meant that I didn't book shop before going away. So it meant I had more money than I would have to go to New York. And then because I knew I'd failed, I made the rule for myself not to go above and buy too many books, not to be reckless. And I went to New York with a very intentional list in mind, and I didn't deviate from that. And I think maybe I would have had I not been on the book buying ban and had I not failed my TBR challenge before. But also on top of that, I had very limited luggage anyway, so I couldn't go too wild, but I did go somewhat wild. So I thought I would do a huge haul at the end of this video of the books that I did buy in New York. They do feature on my book shopping in New York video, but a lot of the haul was quite sporadic. So I thought I would just show you at the end of this video, but talk you through my TBR challenge and where I'm at and how many books I've got left, what books I've got left, what was the sticking points, what did I learn from this challenge, and any knowledge and advice I could pass on to you if you are someone with a big TBR that wants to get through that said physical TBR, but they're saving money for something, or if they just want to clear the space and they want to get through it because you might, like me, have had books piling and you just weren't getting through them as quick. So actually the TBR challenge, the first thing I would say was it was really good to give me motivation to get through my books and to read more. But because I'm somebody that always likes to caveat things, I would caveat that and say reading is fun, reading is a hobby. So don't put pressure on yourself unnecessarily to get through something or to read something if you're not enjoying it, because you need to enjoy the process. I do like to listen to audiobooks frequently. I don't really listen to podcasts. I don't watch that much telly. I like to listen to audiobooks, and I listen to them on 2 times speed. And I went to a work seminar recently, and they said that that was actually a sign of stress, listening to things on 2 times speed, because you want to get through it quicker and you need the hit of content quickly. So that's kind of interesting and eye-opening. But for me, I just got so used to the speed, and then every time I kept upping the speed until I got to 2, and I don't think I'll ever go faster than 2. That would be obscene. But yeah, I do listen to audiobooks quite quickly. And the other thing with the TBR challenge I was finding was this is my physical TBR. And then I was about to buy loads of credits on Audible, like £100 worth, to get the 24 so that I could get through my challenge quicker. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense, because the whole point of this challenge was supposed to be to save money. So if you're going to do the challenge, think about your objectives as you're going through it. If it's to save money, don't spend money on extra subscription services or audiobooks just to get through them quicker. If it's a time thing and you need to, I don't even think I could ever imagine what the deadline would be for needing to actually read the physical books. Like, you're not at school, you're not studying. Unless you are, then use audiobooks. If you need to get through a pile of books for your English literature class, then yeah, get some audiobooks. But I just can't think of a reason you would need to actually get through your physical TBR at a specific deadline. So don't put pressure on yourself and spend money to find and cut corners of ways to get through it, because that's not good for anyone. Like, that kind of seems silly. If you've got the books on your physical TBR, then maybe you should just read them in physical form. I wish I'd told myself that, because I was really stressing myself out and maxing myself out on my Spotify listening, my Everand listening, finding as many as I could on Libby, when I will get through them eventually, and I am very good at getting through my TBR. So currently I'm back on my TBR challenge. I am not on a full book buying ban, because obviously I broke it in NYC, but my focus now that I've come back is to get through my TBR. So let's talk about what I finished and where I'm at now. Okay, so these are the books that are left on my physical TBR, and that is unlucky number 13. I am partway through. Nearly hit my new books. I am reading King of Greed on Kindle. So I've got Kindle Unlimited, so that was free, and I'm getting through that one. I'm about 30% of the way through. A classic Anna Huang book, loving it. It's very enjoyable. I kind of skimmed through the smutty scenes actually, which is something I've started to do. I don't love smutty scenes and I've started to not like them as much. Now, I'm not sure why, but yeah, it's quite easy on a Kindle to just flick through the smutty scenes really quick. And then I'm listening to Bride on audiobook. I'm listening to it on Spotify, and it's currently just cut out because I've listened to the max number that I can. I'm enjoying it, but I think it's one that maybe I should have read in paperback, but I always listen to Ali Hazelwood books. It's obviously quite different because it's a paranormal Romeo and Juliet, and it's a bit different to what she normally writes, but her humour is in there, which is really lovely. I love Ali Hazelwood's sense of humour and the way she writes, but I just think that it's a book that it would have been better to read in physical copy because you'd pay more attention to all the different, like, not necessarily world building because it's quite a simple world, it's quite easy to follow, it's like werewolves and vampires, and you know that it's got a Romeo and Juliet undertone to it, but because it is paranormal there are a few quirks and things that I've skipped through and gone, oh wait, what? Yeah, I'm not loving it, but hopefully I get into it a bit more when I'm allowed to get back onto my Spotify listening again. All of these books, I think this is another tip in itself, is that with my TBR, I picked up and read first all the books that I wanted to, being a mood reader. And that then kind of left maybe books that I don't think I'll enjoy that much. So now I've got a chunk of books I don't think I'll enjoy that much to read together. Some might surprise me, I don't know. I'm worried that it's going to put me in a reading slump doing it this way. So that's why I'm not on a full book buying ban, because I'm going to allow myself to weave in between books that I feel motivated and want to listen to and enjoy right now. But I've got, and I'm most scared for Blood and Ash because I started to listen to this on audiobook, could not follow it at all. So then DNF'd the audiobook knowing I would come back to it in physical copy. And this is the biggest thing. So one of the reasons that I wasn't that quick, I mean, I was quite quick. I read like 40 books in 2 months, which is pretty astounding and pretty good. And it's not a competition. I don't like it when people use their read account as like a competition or to make other people feel bad about how much they've read. I listen to and read as much as I have time for or want to have time for, and that might be more than some people, it might be less than others. That's okay, it's what is normal and routine to me, and my moods as well, because obviously I'm also writing at the same time. So if I'm more in a writing mood than a reading mood, I'll do one or the other, and one will obviously be sacrificed, along with the fact that like might get in late from work, etc. This is actually the book that caused me to slow down pretty significantly, and that is When the Moon Hatched. I thought I would absolutely adore this book. It has been so hyped on BookTube, BookTok. I have seen it everywhere. I did not enjoy this book. It was way too world building, way too complex. It took me 3.5 weeks to get through this book. And considering how little time I had anyway, that is such a huge amount of time. And I kept not DNFing it because everybody was like, wait till the end, it gets better. Like you hit past the like 35% mark and the book starts to make sense. Why on earth would you have to get through 35% of a book to then enjoy it? Like that's mind boggling to me. But one thing I don't like about myself is that I cannot DNF a book. I really, really struggle to just go, do you know what, I'm not enjoying this, I'm not going to read it. And had I done that, I probably would have got through a lot more books. And I ended up enjoying the swear word, I will write it here, series. And I'll put a picture so that you can see the cover of it. It's like a mini series of 5 different books. I started reading it and I actually started and finished it in New York. It was so enjoyable. I loved it. It was something I was not expecting at all. I've been putting it off for ages because I didn't really know what it was about. It's supposed to be dark romance, but there's not that many like sex scenes in it anyway. It's not that. It's dark in the sense that it features crime and it is quite dark in some of the topics, but the book was way more in-depth and exciting and action-packed than I thought. I honestly couldn't put it down. Every time I was on the subway, I was on my phone reading it because I got it on Kindle Unlimited. I cannot recommend that series enough. It was so good and so fun, but not fun. It was obviously like twisty-turny, but I very much enjoyed it, and I thought it was so unexpected, like how I felt about Haunting Adeline. I wasn't expecting it. Same kind of keeps you turning the pages, even though it's a really big book series cut into mini books. So enjoyable, really loved it. So if you've got Kindle Unlimited, definitely read that. I know one of my friends from work watches this and she's just got Kindle Unlimited and she's like, oh, I don't know what to read. I keep forgetting to bring it up in the office, so read that series, it's so good. Yeah, so that was like something really enjoyable, and I was kind of missing out on that because I just spent so much longer on this. Like, life is too short to read books you don't want to read, but I don't know why I can't remind myself of that when I'm actually reading a book I don't enjoy. I don't listen to my own advice. The other books I've got left are these ones I got sent from HarperCollins, and I just don't know much about them, so I haven't been reading them. This looks quite wintry, actually. All it says is, don't misbehave, beware the moon, never go out after dark, break the curse, embrace the wild. I don't know what it is, so I think I need to investigate that to feel more motivated to read it. And it's the same for The Silence Factory. I've seen it everywhere, but I don't know if it's historical fiction. I don't know if it's like literary fiction, because if it is, I'm not a literary fiction kind of gal. So yeah, that's also why I'm kind of put off, because it doesn't scream my typical genre. This one I've been looking forward to read because how pretty is this cover? It's just not been one I've been navigating to pick up that quickly. I bought it in a charity shop ages ago, and I know that this is sci-fi, and I think not sci-fi, fantasy, and I think a lot of the books that I had on my TBR were fantasy because I'd navigated more to the romance books, because with fantasy I have to read it instead of listen to it, and obviously I read one every 2 weeks, so that's only like 25 books in paperback a year, if my maths is mathsing. That it just means that this was one that I just didn't pick up because I was reading other fantasy books. And then I also got a bit too done with fantasy, which I have right now, which is why I'm reading a romance book, because I was reading too much fantasy to get through this challenge because I just left all of them. And I think that that's a lesson in what I buy in the future, because whilst there are a lot of fantasy books out there that are always put on, like blasted on tables and like promoted and everyone talks about them on TikTok and everything, I am not necessarily a fantasy person, and I think this challenge really showed me that a lot more. And so I'm going to try stick more to YA and romance when I buy books on a go forward, because those are the ones I gravitate to so much easier, and if I want to listen to it on audiobook, it's so much easier to do one of those books than a fantasy. And then again, this is another one I got sent by HarperCollins, and it's Her Majesty's Royal Coven. My friend actually DNF'd it, which is why it's put me off. I started listening to it and then just stopped paying attention to it. So I think I just don't think it's one I'm going to enjoy. So I'm contemplating whether I do actually read it or I do. This is the other thing I don't do, is unhaul books. I don't DNF and I don't unhaul, because I temporarily DNF and then I come back to it, but I never unhaul books because I want a library. This flat is only one bed, and Tom has just moved in and he's like, we can't fit any more in here. So maybe I do. I need to go through my bookshelves when I've got a quiet weekend at some point this month or next month. So I do probably need to go through and unhaul. And now I've actually said this on YouTube and Tom watches my YouTube videos, he's going to tell me that I need to listen to myself. But I also want a library in the future, so it's a tough one. Maybe I take books back to my parents' house instead, so it's technically unhauling them from here but not unhauling them from my dream library in the future. These are just some other books. Again, Fantasy by Chloe Gong. I don't know much about this. I got it, I've seen it everywhere, like on TikTok and stuff, but I don't know that much about it. But people have raved about it and I saw it in Oxfam, so I picked it up. Again, I just was reading way too much fantasy, so I didn't prioritize this one. This book I think will be quite easy to read, and I want to read it when I'm really in the mood to be quite inspired, because an author recommended that I read this, and it's Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. It's non-fiction and it says creative living beyond fear, and I basically asked a question at a book event that I went to a while ago about how you get over feeling like you're kind of stuck in your writing career, or maybe your like creative journey. Like maybe if I feel a bit like, oh, haven't got that far in my YouTube journey, or I feel a bit stuck in my writing and I'm just worried about getting older and like hitting 30 soon and feeling as if I'm stuck and I'm not making moves where I want to be in my creative career. She recommended this book and she was like, oh, I know that feeling so well. This book really helped me. So yeah, I'm gonna read that at some point. I just have been trying to read like more fiction books first. This one again, it's called Murder on a Summer Break. It was a book I was given during summer, and I think it might be YA, I don't know. Best friends / social outcasts, Annie and Kerry are the village's most famous and only teenage detective duo. Annie's love Loving the attention and drags Kerry along to the Festival of Fame, Kerry decides to use the chance to finally prove herself as a journalist and expose the real life of influencers behind the filters. But then a famous prankster is found dead with a condom on his head. The detectives are on the case again. Can they catch the killer before another live stream turns deadly? Is this YA? This just doesn't give anything that I normally read, and sometimes that's a good thing. I do need to branch out, and I think it's always good when you get sent a book that you're not expecting to enjoy or that it's outside of your comfort zone. You do naturally put it off when you've got books that you know are in your comfort zone on your TBR, but this one I have put off and I need to get to it. So I will at some point, maybe on audiobook. And then I've just got some romance books on my TBR that I just didn't prioritize. So that is my TBR currently, and I will be getting through it before buying too many books, letting myself loose in bookshops. I do want to get through my TBR. I feel like that is a huge aim now, and saving money ahead of Christmas is a good thing. So yeah, that's my TBR. And then to very, very quickly go through my aims of my book shopping experience in New York. Because I hadn't finished my TBR challenge, I couldn't reward myself with silly shopping. So the only thing I really wanted to do was get copies of my favorite books that I've already read, and then also get special editions of books of my favorite books that I couldn't get in the UK. So let's start with that. So I got a signed special Barnes & Noble edition copy of Heartstopper. This is not like the UK special edition book like I thought. So I picked that up because I'm absolutely obsessed and love Heartstopper. And then I got the After special edition 10-year anniversary, because look at these sprayed edges. It is like glittery. It is the book series that got me inspired to write and also get into reading again. So I had to get this because I couldn't get it in the UK. Binding 13 and the whole Boys of Tommen series has of course been one of my favourite series of all time. And again, my friend from work, if you are watching this, you need to read Binding 13. I got the Barnes & Noble special edition of Binding 13. They didn't have the others in this special edition, it's just this one so far. Maybe they'll have it again, but obviously I don't know when I'll be back in New York again, if I will. To complete the series, because I love US covers of all the Binding 13 books, so I got those as well, but those aren't special edition, it's just the Binding 13 one that is. Fourth Wing, another all-time complete favourite. My friend, one of my best friends, has just started reading this series and she's completely obsessed with it, so I love having her to talk to about it. But this is again a special edition. This one and this one were not in my blog to start with, but that was because my US colleagues, I had ordered these books to the office and then my colleagues had picked them up and brought them over when they visited. But the saddest thing was they didn't realise they were special editions of books, so they took them out of the cardboard like boxing that it comes in and then just shoved them in their bags, so they're a little bit scruffed. And then when they realised, when I spoke to them, they were special editions, they felt so bad, and I was like, no, that's fine, like slightly crying internally, but what can you do? Then I found on the Strand bookstore Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is signed. This is a used book because obviously it's not in pristine condition, but I got a signed US version, like US cover book, signed for $13. So the fact that this was $27 without being signed and is signed and secondhand for $13, I can't complain. I had to do it. I just couldn't leave it in the bookstore. I got Never by Jessa Hastings because they don't have this version in paperback in the UK. They just have the hardback book, and I don't like hardback, so I just wanted it. Look how floppy it is. I just love US books. Like, I don't know why we don't get books like this in the UK. I just wanted the paperback so that I could read this because I love all of her other books in the Magnolia Park series. And then I ended up, and I mentioned it on my vlog, I ended up getting, like the book shopping vlog, I ended up getting Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline as a duo because I can't get my hands on them in the UK at the moment because I think they're shifting them from self-published to traditionally published. I have the self-published version. I think this is actually self-published in the US because it doesn't have like publisher info in here, but it really does feel like a published book. But yeah, I think this is the traditionally published version, but the cover feels like a traditionally published book, but then there's no like publisher details on here. It's just really interesting how different they print things like UK to US, but I can't get the self-published second book in the UK, so I bought both of them in the US, and then I'm going to sell my self-published version of Haunting Adeline. And then finally I just got these two books in the airport because they're airport editions, because they're only out in hardback in the UK at the moment. I got these in Gatwick in London before I went, and I almost wish I didn't get them because it just added to my luggage that was already almost busting overweight, and I could have bought two US books instead of UK ones, but oh well, I bought them and I will definitely read them soon. They seem like, this one seems like quite an easy read. Big text, quite interesting, very nostalgic, because Jacqueline Wilson, I read all of her books when I was growing up. And then this new Sally Rooney book, I'd actually not seen very positive things. All my friends, none of them had really said much positive about this book. But then I've seen loads of TikToks recently that was this is my second favourite book after Normal People of Sally Rooney. So I will read it. I'm looking forward to reading it and reading it in paperback. So yeah, that is my huge book haul. That is where I'm at with my TBR. And I will continue the TBR challenge without placing myself on a huge strict book bang ban, but I will be more intentional until I get through these books. And my boyfriend is watching, so he's definitely going to hold me accountable to that when he is back from traveling. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.